In a small town in Vermont, an elderly janitor named Ronald Read clocked in for his shift at a local department store. He wore a worn-out uniform, his hands calloused from years of honest work. To everyone around him, Ronald was just a quiet, unassuming man who swept floors and emptied trash bins. Nobody suspected he had a secret life that would shock the world. Every single day after his shift ended, Ronald would walk to the local library, not to read novels, but to study something far more valuable: the stock market and investing. Born in 1921, Ronald grew up during the Great Depression. He learned early that money could disappear overnight, but also that patience and discipline could rebuild anything. He served in World War II as a military police officer. After the war, he worked various jobs, never earning more than minimum wage, always living far below his means. Ronald drove a rusty old car, wore secondhand clothes, and never ate at restaurants. His neighbors thought he was poor. They had no idea he was quietly becoming a millionaire. His secret weapon was simple: index funds. He bought low-cost stock market index funds every single month, without fail, rain or shine, for decades on end. This is the magic of dollar-cost averaging. By investing the same amount every month, he bought more shares when prices were low and fewer when prices were high. He ignored every market crash. When others panicked and sold in 1987, 2000, 2008, Ronald did nothing. He simply held on, knowing the market always recovers. The key to his success was not timing the market, but time in the market. He understood that compound interest works best when given decades to do its magic. Albert Einstein once called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Ronald Read proved this theory with his own quiet, relentless discipline over 60 years. Every dollar Ronald invested earned dividends. Those dividends bought more shares. Those shares earned more dividends. Year after year, the snowball grew larger. He lived like a pauper but invested like a king. While others bought new cars and fancy vacations, Ronald bought shares of the entire American economy through index funds. He never gambled on individual stocks or get-rich-quick schemes. He bought the entire market and trusted the long-term growth of capitalism itself. By 1980, Ronald's small monthly investments had grown into a meaningful nest egg, but he never touched it. He let it keep compounding year after relentless year. He worked well into his 80s, still mopping floors and emptying trash. Not because he needed the money, but because routine kept him grounded and happy. His coworkers liked him. He was friendly, but quiet. He always had a kind word and a gentle smile. Nobody looked twice at the old man with a mop. He collected cans and bottles to recycle for extra cash. 5 cents here, 10 cents there. He treated every single penny with the respect it deserved. In 2014, at the age of 92, Ronald Read passed away quietly. The town held a small funeral. A modest man given a modest goodbye. Or so they thought. When Ronald's will was read, the room fell into stunned silence. The quiet janitor had left behind $8 million to his local library and hospital. $8 million stuff from a janitor who drove a rusty car and wore thrift store clothes. The news spread like wildfire across the nation. How did a janitor amass $8 million on a minimum wage salary? The answer is simple: compound interest, disciplined saving, and 60 years of patience. Let us break down the math. If Ronald saved $200 per month for 60 years, earning 9% annual returns, the result is over $8 million. His total contributions were only $144,000. The remaining $7.8 million came entirely from compound interest working over time. This is the power of starting early and staying invested. Ronald started investing in his 20s and never stopped until his final days. He never made a single dollar from inheritance. He never won the lottery. He never had a high-paying job. He simply outsmarted everyone through patience. The library received $4 million. The hospital received $4 million. A janitor who barely finished high school gave more than most billionaires. His story proves that wealth is not about how much you earn, but how much you keep and how wisely you invest what you save. Ronald Read became a legend not because he was lucky, but because he was consistent. He showed up. He saved. He invested. He waited. That was his entire strategy. Ronald kept every single dividend statement and investment record in cardboard boxes. After his passing, those humble boxes revealed a fortune that shocked the nation. He never told a single soul about his wealth. Not his coworkers, not his neighbors, not even his closest relatives. His secret went with him to the grave, almost. Imagine the shock when bank representatives revealed the accounts. Multiple brokerage accounts, all quietly funded over decades, all meticulously managed by one humble janitor. Ronald's investment philosophy was beautifully boring. No trading, no timing, no stock picking. Just buy the entire market and hold forever. Boring works. Most people try to beat the market. Ronald knew he could not, so he joined it. By owning every company, he shared in the growth of the entire American economy. The S&P 500 has returned roughly 10% annually, on average over the long term. Ronald captured every single one of those returns for 60 years. He avoided the biggest mistake investors make, selling during downturns. When the market crashed in 2008, Ronald bought even more shares at discounted prices. His frugality was legendary. He once patched the same pair of pants 7 times, instead of buying new ones. Every dollar saved was a dollar invested. He walked everywhere to save gas money. He grew his own vegetables. He cut his own hair. He lived a life of extreme simplicity by modern standards. While Wall Street traders screamed and panicked on television, Ronald calmly ate his packed lunch in the break room. He knew something they did not. What he knew was simple. Businesses make profits over time. Index funds capture those profits. Patient investors get rich. Impatient investors get nothing. By the 1990s, Ronald's portfolio had crossed $1 million. He was a millionaire and still mopping floors. He never changed his lifestyle one bit. He could have retired at any time and lived comfortably. But retirement was not his goal. His goal was to see what compound interest could become if left alone. He treated investing like watching paint dry. The less you check it, the better it gets. Constant checking leads to emotional decisions and poor results. Ronald checked his portfolio once per year, if that. He did not have a smartphone. He did not watch financial news. He simply trusted the process. His strategy is available to anyone. You do not need a special degree. You do not need insider information. You just need discipline and a long time horizon. Open a brokerage account. Buy a low-cost total market index fund. Add money every month. Do not touch it for 30 years. That is the Ronald Read method. Most people think you need to take big risks to get rich. Ronald proved that boring, consistent, low-risk investing beats gambling every single time. The tortoise and the hare is a perfect analogy. Ronald was the tortoise. Slow, steady, consistent. He never stopped, never wavered, and won the race of wealth. His story went viral after the Boston Globe published an article. People could not believe a janitor had donated millions. The world wanted to know his secret. Interviews with his family revealed the truth. He was not lucky in stocks. He was simply disciplined. He saved aggressively and lived humbly for 60 straight years. He never owned a computer. He placed his trades through a local broker or by mail. In an age of instant trading, he did it the old-fashioned way. By avoiding technology, he also avoided the temptation of day trading. He could not check prices every hour. He simply had no choice but to be patient. Sometimes the best way to win is to make it impossible to lose. By choosing index funds, Ronald guaranteed he would match the market's long-term returns. His $8 million donation transformed the local library. New books, computers, and a dedicated reading room now bear his name. A janitor's gift to learning. The hospital used his donation to build a new cancer treatment wing. His quiet generosity saved lives. A janitor who barely had a high school education changed healthcare. His story reminds us that wealth is not about flashy cars or designer clothes. It is about freedom, security, and the ability to make a difference. Ronald Read was not an anomaly. There are thousands of secret millionaires living ordinary lives, quietly building wealth through patient, disciplined investing every single day. The key lesson from Ronald Read is this: consistency beats intensity. You do not need to be brilliant. You just need to show up every month for decades. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Ronald started with just a few dollars. He ended with millions. The formula has not changed. Imagine if Ronald had stopped after 10 years. He would have had maybe $50,000. But he kept going for 60 years. That is the magic of time. The first 10 years are the hardest. Your portfolio seems tiny. Nothing exciting happens. But that is when the foundation is built. Keep going. Years 10 through 20 are better. Your money starts working for you. The snowball begins to roll. You see real progress for the first time. Years 20 through 30 are when compounding accelerates. Your portfolio begins to grow faster than your contributions. The math starts working in your favor. Years 30 through 40 are remarkable. Your investments now earn more in 1 year than you contributed in the first decade. Patience pays off massively. Years 40 through 50 are almost unbelievable. Each year, your portfolio grows by amounts that would have taken a decade to earn when you started. Years 50 through 60 are the grand finale. This is where Ronald went from millionaire to multimillionaire. 9 figures from patience alone. The average person gives up after 5 years. The average investor sells during the first crash. Ronald was not average. He was extraordinary in his ordinariness. He did not have a high IQ. He did not have an MBA. He had something far more valuable: emotional control and the ability to ignore short-term noise. Emotional control is the most underrated investing skill. The market will test you. It will crash, rally, crash again. Your discipline is what determines your destiny. Ronald's favorite snack was a simple apple. He bought them on sale. He never understood why people spent $5 on fancy coffee when that could be invested. $5 a day, invested for 60 years at 9%, becomes nearly $2 million. A cup of coffee costs $2 million over a lifetime. This is not about deprivation. It is about prioritization. Ronald chose future freedom over momentary pleasure. Every single day, for 60 years. When asked about his secret, his nephew said Ronald simply lived below his means and invested the rest. There was no magic, just discipline. Ronald's story challenges our modern culture of instant gratification. We want results now. Investing teaches us that the best things come to those who wait. He proved that you do not need to be rich to invest. You just need to start. Even $10 a month is enough to begin the journey. The financial industry wants you to believe investing is complicated. Ronald proved it is simple. Buy the market, hold it, wait. That is literally the whole strategy. He never fell for the latest investment fad. No crypto, no options, no penny stocks. Just plain boring index funds that quietly grew over decades. Wall Street hates boring. They need you to trade. Every trade earns them commissions. But Ronald did not care about Wall Street. He cared about his future. He understood that investing is not about being smart. It is about not being stupid. Avoid big losses. Stay diversified. Stay the course. By the time Ronald passed, his portfolio was generating more than $300,000 per year in dividends alone. He never spent a penny of it. He treated money as a tool, not a goal. The goal was to see what was possible. The goal was to leave a legacy that would outlive him. His monument is not a statue. It is a library full of readers and a hospital saving lives. That is far more meaningful than any marble tombstone. Ronald Read lived the American dream in reverse. He started with nothing, worked hard his whole life, and ended with more than he could ever spend. His $87,000 in funeral costs were paid from his estate. Even in death, he planned ahead. He thought of everything. The lesson for all of us is clear. Time is on your side if you let it work. Start today. Invest consistently. Ignore the noise. Let compound interest do the heavy lifting. Ronald Read was not a financial genius. He was a janitor who understood something most geniuses miss. Patience is the most powerful force in the universe. Next time you see a janitor, a cleaner, someone doing humble work, remember Ronald Read. Never judge a book by its cover. Wealth wears many disguises. Could you be the next Ronald Read? You do not need millions to start. You need discipline, patience, and the willingness to be boring for decades. This is not financial advice. This is a true story of what one ordinary person accomplished with extraordinary patience. Ronald Read proved it is possible. If Ronald's story inspires you, start today. Open an account. Set up automatic transfers. Buy a total market index fund. Then forget about it for 30 years. The hardest part is not the map. The hardest part is your own brain. It will scream at you to sell when prices drop. Ignore it. Ronald did. Ronald Read passed away in 2014 at age 92. But his legacy lives on. Every person who reads his story and starts investing carries his spirit forward. His $8 million changed a community, a library, a hospital. Think about what time and patience can really do when you give them space to work. Ronald never saw himself as a hero. He was just doing what made sense. Save. Invest. Wait. But in doing so, he became one of the most inspiring investors in history. In the end, Ronald Read taught us that wealth is not about what you have. It is about who you become in the process. Patient. Disciplined. Generous. His favorite saying was simple: do not spend what you do not have, and save what you can. He lived by those words every single day of his long life. Some people called him lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. Consistency creates results that look like luck to those who lack discipline. The janitor who swept floors became the donor who built wings of hospitals. From a mop to a miracle. This is what happens when you let compound interest work. He never sought fame. He never wanted recognition. He just wanted to do the right thing quietly. And in the end, the whole world heard his silent footsteps. Ronald Read is proof that you do not need a fancy degree, a big salary, or a lucky break. You just need time, discipline, and the courage to be different. Imagine the conversation at the pearly gates. St. Peter looks at Ronald and says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You took what you were given and multiplied it." His $8 million was not a number. It was a statement. A statement that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things with simple, consistent actions. The Ronald Read story went viral because deep down, everyone knows they could do this. But few have the patience to actually follow through. Be one of the few. He had no secret formula. He had no insider tips. He had a broom, a bank account, and a vision. That is all anyone truly needs to build lasting wealth. If you are young, start now. Time is your greatest asset. $1 invested at 20 is worth 10 times more than $1 invested at 50. If you are older, do not despair. Ronald started with nothing and built his fortune later in life too. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Open that account. Buy that fund. Set that automatic transfer. Join the quiet revolution of patient investors building real wealth. Ronald Read was a janitor, but he was also a master of time. He understood that money is just energy stored across time. He stored his energy wisely. One man, one mop, one vision, $8 million. Countless lives changed. This is the power of patience. This is the legacy of Ronald Read. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, remember, wealth is not about what you earn. It is about what you keep and how long you let it grow. Subscribe for more stories of ordinary people who achieved the extraordinary. And start your own journey today. After all, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Ronald Read never owned a television. Instead, he spent his evenings reading financial books from the library. Knowledge was his true investment, and it paid the highest dividend. When asked about his secret after his passing, his financial advisor said Ronald never panicked. He never celebrated. He was emotionally flat about money. That was his superpower. The janitor's story spread across newspapers, television, and social media. People were captivated by the idea that a man with a broom could build an $8 million fortune. Ronald Read proved that the stock market is not a casino. It is a wealth-building machine for those patient enough to let it work. He never gambled. He invested. His legacy lives on in every person who reads his story and decides to change their financial future. One janitor sparked a million small revolutions in personal finance. He showed the world that anyone can become a millionaire. You do not need to be born rich. You just need to be born with the ability to wait, and wait, and wait. Ronald Read, the janitor, who secretly built $8 million. Remember his name. Remember his lesson. And one day, someone might tell your story too. From the janitor's closet to the pages of history books, Ronald Read's journey reminds us that greatness often hides in plain sight. Look around you. Who is the next Ronald Read? The mop is put away. The broom stands silent. But Ronald Read's story will never be forgotten. $8 million. One janitor. Infinite inspiration.